our usual small problems of getting it going, but then it took off fine.
And what was the top speed you attained? If that would have been in the car, how fast would we have gone?
Well, you had 45,000.
Down to 28,000 for a while, so we were a little bit over 100 miles an hour. It's easily as good as it was Wednesday or better.
Well, and you think the whole control problem is solved?
The car is getting almost modified to the point of dropping in the condensers. The regenerator materials are on order. The turbine gearboxes are made up. The turbines are ready to be made up.
Because external combustion engines of the type required were not available on the market, the three vendors had to design, develop, and build the experimental power plants by hand. A lightweight and efficient steam system requires the use of high temperatures and pressures. Extremely close tolerances, sometimes as small as 10,000ths of an inch, are often needed. Brobeck's experience with the Doble Corporation in the 30s led to the design of his power plant.
The way we're working on the bus, the design of the power plant we're using is a subsequent development of these old Doble power systems. But they were very advanced for their time, and they're even very advanced for today. I worked on these power plants, not on this particular car, but on power plants like this when I first got out of college, back in 1930 through 1937. And at that time, these cars were finished, but the work I did was on similar power plants for railroad cars, trucks, and buses. And so I learned a lot that's applicable to this bus program.
The Bessler Corporation, which took over the Doble Company, supplied a steam power plant for a two-car commuter train. Their belief that steam was a superior source of lightweight power was dramatically demonstrated in 1933, when William Bessler flew a steam-powered airplane at the Oakland Airport.
We studied everything that Abner Doble did and why he did it. And from that was our starting point. Now remember that at the present time, the automotive industry has spent about between $50 and $70 billion on the development of the internal combustion engine over a period of 70 years. Obviously, it's going to be the trick of the year or the trick of the century to come up with a substitute for what they have been able to accomplish in those years. It took us 2 years to find out that all of the ideas we had for small reciprocating engines just weren't worth fooling with, and that we had to go to a turbine. So we came up with a wheel, and this wheel has 100 blades on it, and we can put a nozzle on one side of it, and the steam comes out and pushes the wheel. And as far as I can see, we have licked the major problems. The problems we have from here on out are the kind of problems you have when you assemble anything together, such as belts and gears and pulleys and so forth. But we think that we can deliver a bus sometime within the next 3 or 4 months that will be outstanding in its performance, in its appearance, and its economy. And of course, my objective is to ultimately be able to outperform the diesel engine as far as economy is concerned. At the present time, we don't expect that we can do it. But after all, right now the important thing is, what will the pollution output be?
After the steam systems were installed in the buses, extensive road tests were conducted to further evaluate safety, reliability, and performance. tests of the Brobeck bus were finished first, and it was taken to Washington in November of 1971.
Good morning and welcome aboard the first modern steam bus. The purpose of this project is to demonstrate the potential of an external combustion engine, a steam engine, as a low-emitting power plant, pointing the way to low-polluting mass transportation of the future. This is one of 3 buses being developed for this project. This particular bus a year ago was a diesel bus. It's been converted to steam power by William Brobeck and Associates of Berkeley. With the different designs being presented in this early experimental program, we hope to learn much about the route to take to that engine of the future. What's the top speed? No, it's the other side of the cap. They're voting, and I want to get back there for the next one. Steam will get you there. Steam will get you. You know, if it works, if it gets me there in time for the vote, I'm for it. Okay. Thank you.
This is the first that I have seen. It looks good. It rides comfortably, and it has a good deal more testing to be done. But I look forward to the possibility that we will have something other than an internal combustion engine. I would expect that within the next year or two, you'll start to see one or more of these buses get into production.
In April of 1972, all 3 buses were completed. They were taken to Sacramento for testing and another public demonstration. The California Air Resources Board performed comprehensive exhaust emissions tests. A standard diesel bus and all 3 steam buses were tested in a common manner. The procedure was to load the vehicle as though it were on the street or highway with a chassis dynamometer, the set of rollers that the rear axle operates on. Then the exhaust was sampled by means of a probe inserted in the exhaust stack of the bus, leading through a rubber hose to a van where the gas was separated into its components and recorded with high accuracy, a few parts per million. The raw data was then analyzed by computer and summarized on a comparative basis. Results of these tests show that diesel buses failed to meet 1975 state emission standards, while steam buses bettered these requirements by more than 2 to 1. The steam bus reduced carbon monoxide by about 50% and lowered hydrocarbon and oxides of nitrogen by 80% when compared to the diesel. The diesel bus does not nearly meet the 1975 state standards, while the steam bus easily does. The buses were designed to show the feasibility of the steam engine as a low-polluting means of transportation. 2 of these prototype buses were also quieter than the diesel buses in tests performed by the California Highway Patrol.
79.5.
The buses were then demonstrated to the public and California legislators in front of the state capitol building.
It can work. There is absolutely no question that the amount of pollution emitted from these vehicles is tremendously lower than the vehicles being used today. The fact is that I believe each one of these vehicles is capable of more than meeting the 1975 pollution standard. They're also as efficient, as powerful, and I think in the long run will be as economical as vehicles being used today. I'm very disappointed at this point that Detroit has seen fit to try to poo-poo the possibilities of a steam engine. We know there's a tremendous number of dollars involved in their reconversion to a steam engine from the internal combustion engines being used now. But it's something that's got to be done. All we want to do is have them recognize it, assist us, so that places like California, like Los Angeles, don't have to be the smog belts they are now. We thought that we'd give all of you an opportunity to see why we ought to be thinking in this direction in the years to come.
Thank you. Welcome aboard our steam bus, man. Welcome aboard our steam bus.
Thank you. Well, is that what we're riding on?
The Brobeck bus went into public service in Alameda County on May 25, 1972, with the Lear Turbine bus slated to begin its revenue runs in July, and the SPS bus scheduled for public service in Los Angeles in August. The public service demonstration was possible only with the cooperation of the transit systems.
We in the transit industry are convinced that we have to join the American public in trying to clean up our environment. One of the issues that we're faced with is trying to quiet the noise of our operation. And we're also concerned in trying to eliminate, so far as we possibly can, the smog-producing activities of our equipment. The steam project that we're engaged in at the present time, we feel is making important strides towards this accomplishment.
Even though the buses have operated in public service, we are a long way from seeing the internal combustion engine replaced. The project was a success. We know that steam means cleaner and quieter transportation. But now, if this knowledge is to be used, we must support the long and even more costly effort of transforming these working prototypes into production models. In the same way that the internal combustion engine was the answer in the early days of the automobile, steam may be the answer in the days to come.
More to steam bus, sir.
Oh, you're getting a steam bus.
That's what you're riding on right now. That's what you're riding on right now.
Right now, a steam bus.
Yes, sir.
Good
Steam
deal.
bus.
Well, that's better than gas.